today. Let me introduce you to the panelists. Dr. Latika Nath is an award-winning conservation ecologist, photographer, and global authority on big cat conservation. With a doctorate from the University of Oxford and over 3 decades of field experience, she has worked with UNDP, IUCN, and Niti Aayog on wildlife conservation, sustainability, and human-wildlife conflict. Recognized among Asia's 100 women power leaders, she uses science, storytelling, and visual art to advance conservation, responsible tourism, and climate awareness worldwide. Our next panelist is Renu Shah, the founder of STEP. You just heard her. And I now have the opportunity of inviting our most dynamic moderator for the session, who will steer this conversation with depth and clarity. Ms. Charu Malhotra, she is the co-founder and managing director at Primus Partners, leading the education, employability, and entrepreneurship practice. With over 25 years of experience, she works across education, reform, digital transformation, and development policy. Her current focus includes AI integration in education, competency-based learning, women's economic inclusion, skilling, foreign language training, and enabling foreign university campuses in India through multi-stakeholder partnerships. Please again welcome these incredible speakers with a huge round of applause. Over to you, wonderful ladies.
Thank you. I'm so looking forward to this discussion with Latika and Renu. It's not every day we have a conversation with two such achievers, long years in their respective fields, particularly in conservation and ecology. And with this, let me just ask you, Latika, women's participation, or let me say leadership, in conservation-linked enterprises, do you think their leadership, women's participation, leads to, more sustainable outcomes, to make it scalable without really taking away from nature? And the reverse as well. Do ecological value systems, what sort of lessons do they share with us? Or what can we learn from ecology, value systems to shape our inclusive economic models? So both, how can ecology actually provide lessons for us? And how can women involvement also make scalable economic models around conservation-linked enterprises? I thought I'll just make that clear.
Thank you. That's a huge set of questions.
Actually, it's one. It's two sides of the same coin.
But it's huge. Okay, well, yes, women can make a difference. And this year we lost one of the greatest ecological leaders of all times, Dr. Jane Goodall, and what a difference she made. And that was one woman who had set out on her own path. And she really changed the world. And we've got many other examples here. The Chipko movement was led by Gauri Devi. We lost recently as well. There are many women leaders, even today. Medha Patkar and all her work for the Narmada Dam project. There are so many people who have been really, really at the core of some of the most impactful movements for the conservation of biodiversity, for the conservation of landscapes, and for combating climate change, not only in India, but internationally. So yes, it does make a difference. But it's not only just these prominent leaders that we're talking about. It's also on a day-to-day basis. For every household, be it the smallest, absolutely marginal farmer with his wife aching out a living somewhere in remote India. The women are the ones who face the reality. The women are the ones who come up with the solutions. And they do this with being handicapped, with not being the owner of the asset. They don't have leadership roles. In many occasions, I've been where a woman sarpanch is there, but she can't even take a decision without consulting her husband. And this is the truth of what is happening in India. Also, the women don't have access to markets. They're burdened with the largest share of being caregivers. The onus of and responsibility of looking after the elders and the youngers always fall on the women. The men might leave and become migratory workers. The women have to stay home to hold fort against all odds. Countries like Nepal, we had done a study where they showed that all young able men had gone out of the country to earn a living. And it was the women who held it together. And these were mainly the pregnant women, mainly the elders, who actually held the whole flow of the community and the binding structure of the village together. So yes, women can make a difference. And they have a huge repertoire of traditional knowledge, things that they've learned from the elders that have been passed down, innovations that have been developed over generations that have adapted to particular local situations. And it's when they are faced with these and they have to come up with a way to survive that some of the most innovative outcomes are seen, and they can really make a difference. The flip side of it is, yes, from ecology, we can absolutely learn. We've seen how nature is self-healing. So we learn that when women come into their own and learn to protect their resources, nature heals very quickly. And you can recover the basic requirements: food, water, quality of habitat. And people can absolutely take a degraded landscape and bring it back to make their own lives better. So it works both ways.
Thank you for bringing up some of the challenges. And Renu, with this, I turn to you. Latika just pointed out, limitations of women. First of all, in terms of having that agency, from, being a beneficiary, how do we make us? So my question to you would be, imbuing them with confidence so that they move from being just beneficiaries to decision makers. So how can incubators, accelerators, platforms like STEP actually design entrepreneurship models for women in such a manner that, you can actually cater to, as she said, lack of networks, markets, capital, even supply chains. And today I walked into the hall where, those pitches were going on. There were students who were, that whole ideathon. Taking from this, and of course, several of them are in the hall here. So how would STEP, and what are you doing to actually strengthen this entire ecosystem?
Thank you. It's again a very loaded question, but I'll try and answer in 2-3 parts. One, when we talk about challenges, the challenges, Latika already mentioned them, and I'll just try and categorize them as systemic, historical, cultural, social bias. It's not that anyone is responsible for that, but it has happened. It has been happening for a long time. And now that we are aware and we recognize those, I think we can create more aware systems socially. I'm not just talking from a policy lens. Policy, there is always, a policy can be framed, and then there is the implementation of the policy, and there's only so much that a policy can do. I believe that social and cultural change is more important to empower women. However, these challenges are same, whether they are in urban India or rural India. We may think that rural India has more challenges and urban is a little more evolved. But in my line of work in the last 6 years, and I have now worked with more than 1,500 women entrepreneurs across geographies, across states, from Guwahati, Manipur to Kashmir to Kanyakumari in terms of states, but also in terms of rural and urban geography, where we are looking at a Bangalore or a Delhi or a Mumbai, but also you saw Suman from Durgapur. So we have a whole lot of women from Mirzapur, Durgapur, Basti, Kushinagar, where we have worked with. And I have realized that these social cultural barriers are holding them back. They need family, community support to do that. Now, where do we come in? So, where do we come in is sympathy is something I feel is very outdated. What women need, they have ambition, they have the drive to do it, they do the hard work, but what they really need are the skills. So, system development, skilling, we work with women entrepreneurs through and through, and all we do it is business trainings. Whether it is rural India or urban India, the sense of business, we try and train them or make them aware of what is required and close that gap between the market and them. And you asked that how can an incubator make that difference, especially for women? And let me tell you that most incubators are gender neutral, which is fine, which is great. However, women are multitaskers, maybe not by choice. And in our program, we said that we are going to create an ecosystem which works for women. And we have seen more often than not that women drop out of programs. And they don't drop out of the programs because they want to drop out of the programs. There's something else that has taken more priority. It could be a child's health. It could be something else happening in the family. So what we have done is that we've left it fluid. That if you cannot finish the cohort, you come back. And there's one thing that every incubatee at STEP you will hear is that STEP team was around for us. So we have made empathy the core of our work, and we are around with a lot of them. So I was talking about Anjali in the morning, and let me just share this because Anjali herself shared it yesterday, that while she joined the cohort, her husband passed away. And what could be more serious than that? And Anjali just continuously on all mentorship calls was crying because she was grieving. And we, as a women's incubator, recognize this, that a woman is grieving. And so we have to let her be right now. But also there has to be a right time when you just pull her up and say, okay, get on with life. So we understand this, and that's the difference between us and other incubators. Rest of the things are same. You have to find market access. You have to find people who will listen to their ideas and probably invest in them, guide them so that they get to the point where they become investable. So those are common with everyone. But as a women's incubator, I think empathy is something that is at the center of our work, whether we do it in urban or rural.
Thank you. Renu brought out the aspect of empathy. You spoke about the healing power of women and how that resonates with nature. So let me ask you one thing, and there are men in the hall as well. Do men dominate high-risk environments, and particularly where you are working with the whole human-wildlife conflict, as it was told? In such an environment, when you go out and work, particularly when you don your hat as a photographer, as a conservationist, shaping conservation stories, do narratives differ when told by women, about women and about nature?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I've always had this problem with being a conservation ecologist, and I had right from the beginning, I had people come up and say, oh, we're looking for the researcher who's working on tigers, and they'd expect a man. It was just a natural reaction. And I'd be, at times, the only woman in a room full of men, both from government and INGOs, and I'd literally be the only woman in that room. And I had this set of reactions always where either I would be dismissed, or they would say, oh, you've come from a privileged background, so you've used your family background to get to where you are. Nobody assumed that you were actually capable of doing your work. This was a very real issue, and it continues to be an issue even today. And when you go into these high-risk areas, when you go into extreme terrains, it's difficult. I mean, there are people who, something as simple as outdoor gear. They make it for men. They don't make it for women. I mean, there's brands in India that make shoes for trekking and hiking, and the men's shoes are in grays and blacks and browns. The women's shoes are bright red, and you turn around and say, but I need those too, and I need to also. So they don't even look at women as a target, buyer, a target audience, and it's very difficult to get your voice heard. And this is what happens when you go into these remote areas and you have women who are trying to be entrepreneurs. We have women who set up, the simplest of cottage industries, and just to get the panchayat to acknowledge that they're doing something is a challenge. And I think what's very heartening is the change that I've seen over the last 3 or 4 decades in the country. And I've seen this change happening. And I think access to technology, access to the internet, access to support groups online has made a big difference. And I also work, like you said, with Niti Aayog, and we have the Women Entrepreneurship Platform. And that now has 88,000 members, women from across the country. And there's absolutely mind-blowing, magical stuff happening. But it's still a struggle. And in many cases, they run into the simplest problems. If you're a single woman, can you get a loan? This is a real issue. And these are still issues that we're dealing with. And it's really sad that we're dealing with all of this. So handing back to you.
Thank you. You mentioned Niti Aayog and you mentioned policy. Let me actually bring policy at the center. So even in our union budgets, there were very, gender-led provisions, particularly this year as well, across the whole skilling ecosystem, the whole UN Women, forums, of course, Niti Aayog platform. What is, from all of this collectively, I mean, I'm just asking you, top of your mind, what is that one, change that you've seen happen because of such enabling support systems? And where does the gap still exist?
Actually, it's very exciting to see that there is change happening. We are putting women at the center stage when it comes to entrepreneurship. We have all realized that there are limited jobs. That is one thing. But the other thing is also that for women, they need flexible timings. And so jobs is something that doesn't work for a lot of women. So entrepreneurship automatically becomes a choice by default. And I am super excited when I see the budget every year and they're putting in some more effort in these areas. So SHG. So we've been seeing that how the government is supporting the SHG with the policies that they have, the kind of money that they've allocated for the SHGs, development of the SHGs, trainings of the SHGs, all of that. Then we saw the next step of the Saras Melas and all of that. Lakpati Didi scheme is one of my favorite schemes where you see all these women entrepreneurs coming together and exhibiting their products. And so what is happening now with that training and all of that? First, the formation of the SHG, training of the women entrepreneurs, then finding a market for these products. So the government is trying to do that also. And apparently I visited the Saras Mela in Delhi, and which was quite successful. I saw a lot of people over there and spoke to a lot of people who had exhibited and were selling over there. And the sari that I'm wearing today is from the Saras Mela. So this is the market connect, and this as a policy can really make a difference. What is announced this year has blown me away, and that is the She Mart, which is going to be the marts where women's products made by SHGs or other micro entrepreneurs will be exhibited, and they will be up for sale. So there is a budget allocation for that. And I think while we may see these marts initially not very crowded or just picking up, but eventually it's just the first step, and we will see that how this shapes as we go forward. So these are some of the three exciting things that I have seen in the space of policy, and it's mindful designing of these policies. They just, like I say, nothing happens by chance. This is something somebody's really thought through this and have got it. I'm waiting to see more for women in climate action. That is something that I'm still keeping my fingers crossed across. And when you said that what more, yes, this is one. But I also want to see more capital, more patient capital coming towards women from investors, government, and the loans you were talking about. There are a lot of loan schemes by the government, but it is not so easy to access them. So I would love to see a little more simplicity in the processes so that women are able to access finance easier.
So to both of you, one common question. Going forward, let's say your next 2-year plan or 3-year roadmap for either of you, depending on what matters to both of you. What is that one area, particularly for climate action, for you, and of course, conservation and ecology-driven aspects, which you would be working on, which would put women leadership, innovation, and agency at the center for both of you? Let's go with you, Latika, first.
So I work a lot with the tribal communities in central India. And for me, I think that the basic grassroots level work that women are doing, whether it is for minor forest produce, or it is using nature-based products for recognizing medicinal plants, for protecting wildlife habitats, for water conservation, and even traditional architectural materials in use. I think all of these are areas that I personally would be focusing on a lot. And I think there's a lot of movement amongst the village groups in my part of the world where they combat climate change on a day-to-day basis using these traditional and learned techniques.
And which part of the country would this?
Madhya Pradesh, I work in Madhya Pradesh primarily.
Okay.
But yeah, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, all of this North India belt is where I've been working. But we've also now started working in the Northeast.
So just on the tribal part, the MOTA, Ministry of Tribal Affairs, does have its goals and
Yes.
does have,
Yes.
of course, girls and,
Yes.
would there be any merit actually suggesting livelihoods and, vocational pathways,
Yes.
not just for girls, but even for boys over there,
Yes.
to work in programs like this?
Absolutely. Yeah, we're definitely focusing on this. And when we're talking about the growth plans, the growth hubs, we're actually taking this into account when the growth hub plans for different parts of the country are being developed by NITI.
And any
doing
partnerships you'd be forging, because this wouldn't require, even if you're looking at medicinal plants, they would have to be then science-backed. And
Well, you know that this budget, they've just announced a whole lot for medicinal plants in Ayurveda.
Yes.
So there's been a lot of thrust on all of this. So I think also the government is encouraging inter-ministry cooperation, which is really important. So I think that's the big change that we're seeing now.
Great. And over to you, Renu.
We use the word agency, and I think agency for women, it only comes with financial independence. And that's what our aim is, that we try and create more entrepreneurs and try and support entrepreneurs who already exist, so create sustainable pathways. And how do we do it? We want to increase the scope of our work in rural, keeping like we said that we have 3 verticals where we are doing the Safal Karobar program, Unpollute and Dhanotsav. The intention behind all these programs is skilling, training, market connects, but the number one thing is visibility. only if there is visibility, then there will be conversation. And if there is conversation, then you can talk about challenges, you can talk about solutions and fixes. So that's why our very big focus is going to be on visibility of women entrepreneurs across rural India that we are working in, and women in climate action. So you will see even a bigger, bolder Unpollute next year. But yeah, as
So
Dhanu said,
let me get you to commit to something in terms of collaboration. How will you collaborate when you're talking about agency for girls, for women, with institutional structures like, let's say, an Anganwadi, or let's say any other institutionalized mechanism to pitch these opportunities for people who may not be aware of them?
that's a great question. So now with the work that we have done in rural, we understand SHGs and structures of SHGs very well. I have personally worked with government primary schools and Anganwadis as well. So I understand those structures. I feel this whole mindset shift positively towards entrepreneurship. I think Anganwadis can become a center where they are able to attract women who are looking at generating a livelihood. And then from that, a simple needs assessment will help us design a training structure and what they need.
So there are those, in fact, one example, if I may take, around Anganwadis, there are Poshan Vatikas, right?
Yeah.
Again, which are talking about locally grown, produce, of course, for Poshan. Can that, and of course, looking at in terms of for climate and what you were speaking, can that be an area for?
Absolutely, absolutely. So just to give you an example, in Jhansi district, and I'm forgetting the name of the village, but they are doing Pashu Ahar. So that Pashu Ahar, they have made it commercial. They're selling it in their own village, and they've started selling it in villages around them. Why can that not be done with other products? So whether they're nutritional products, food products, anything, it is just creating that structure, skilling them, and finding markets.
So let me say a place like Delhi,
I knew you were coming there.
a place like Delhi, how will such models actually, what can be done for a place like Delhi? Simple.
It's not different, honestly, Charu. It's the same. Like I'm telling you, in some of our cohorts, we have Stanford graduates. And we also have people like Suman who are coming from Durgapur. I haven't seen a lot of difference in the kind of, everybody needs something and you just have to identify that. So Delhi also works with SHGs, Anganwadis, all of those. Similar structures, and trust me, when you go through these different layers, you will
Are
find
there more barriers in a place like, cities as compared to, or how would you compare?
Yeah, there is a lot more interference from various stakeholders. When you get removed from the capital or other bigger, especially the capital and other big areas, then the interference is less. And so the freedom to operate and deliver is higher. So things may be slightly slower as they move. This is what I'm anticipating. I'm not sure, and I hope it's
so
not
look
that.
forward to see you develop a model for cities, and particularly cities like Delhi. And we will, with this, if with both your permission, unless you would like to add, can I draw the audience in for any comments, observations, questions? Yes, we have a question there. We have two questions. Yes, to the gentleman here.
Ma'am, I'm Gurinder Dua. I'm working as an independent consultant in emerging technologies. We are looking at developing the user-based principles for using AI in family violence. This is an initiative which is led by a lady in Australia. And I'm part of that team. So my question is that instead of looking micro, like you were mentioning, that with the advent of mobile technology, you have reached out to almost 1 lakh people who are part of the group, and it's a very vibrant kind of a interaction which you are noticing. So why don't you look at something like AI similar kind of initiative with the government, so that you have user-based principles for, developing entrepreneurship for women and something like that. I mean, it's just thought.
Any response?
Thank you for that question. It is becoming seemingly very, very important to integrate AI, generative AI in your work. And as we are talking about this, we are actually looking at scaling our training program through using generative AI. So what will really happen is that the scale will increase, and a lot more people will have access to it. Plus, we will also have control over quality. So I think in this era, we cannot stay away from the use of technology and AI. How can we best use it in the models that we are working? So my work is around training, mentorship, and all of that. And it clearly can be integrated. We are already in the first phase of conversation of designing an architecture around it. So I don't see that there is a problem. It's just a matter of time, and eventually all of us will be using it in some way or the other, the way it in whichever way it will complement our work.
What I'm saying is, why don't you create a model like what we are doing for family violence with this initiative? It is with IEEE that we are building the principles. We don't even know where we are going, right?
Yeah.
So something like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay. Point taken, point taken. We'll get there when we get there. But yeah, point taken, and it is interesting. And of course, somebody has to take the first step to build things. So let's see how this goes.
Absolutely. Yes, we have another question there.
Yeah, Dr. Latika, the way you referred about Niti Aayog, your background, every year we have a budget, and moment contribution is equally important, but it's never considered in GDP as we consider in UN and other countries. And whether they are in domestic work or in agriculture or other types of work, that work is not converted to economic contribution to GDP of country. If it is pressed upon to the ministry, they should also consider this woman contribution. It can make a difference in our overall income. Second, the way we are talking about AI and climate, in future very soon we will be having a semiconductor type of work, and women can be also helpful in this type of work, and AI also. So why not to train these women in high tech also instead of low tech and other things? Thank you.
Thank you. I absolutely agree with you on the first comment. And I personally work with my PhD work was all on satellite remote sensing, GIS, and lots of technology. So I think yes, absolutely, women are making great headways in using technology, and I don't at all think that we're not training women. And I think AI and computing and technology is fields that women are really interested in and are making a great headway in. So I'm very optimistic that we'll see a lot happening.
No, I just want to add to that in the morning we saw some beautiful technical solutions coming from women who hold PhDs and are scientists. So I think it was exciting to see that they're like really up ahead when it comes to technology as well.
Hello, I am Stuti, and I have a question for Latika ma'am that I am working with rural forest-based communities in Maharashtra for processing and value addition of non-timber forest products. So I want to understand your point of view with respect to market of traditional food systems, traditional medicinal plants, and how ripe is the market? Like we see chemicals and inputs and cosmetics and food. So I just want to understand your POV on markets.
So, you know, what's really interesting is that people are recognizing the need for purity in the food we eat, in the air we breathe, in the water we drink. And this is, I don't know if you've been reading the news recently, but they've been talking about the fact that the people are now taking, charge of water resources in the country because they feel it's so important. Similarly, all of the MFP that you're talking about is going to become some of the most valued products. What is important right now is to find a way that communities retain ownership of their own resources and to prevent people from outside coming in and taking over these resources. And I think that's where the focus is going to be, because the demand is there. And the demand is going to percolate into the communities that actually have the resources. The challenge is going to be protecting them and retaining ownership with the communities that have been the traditional guardians of these resources, and teaching people how to put this information out there so that people can contact them as suppliers and be able to access them directly. And I think that's where we need to focus right now.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I am Pratim from Climate Praxis. So I have a question, more sort of a rhetorical or philosophical question. So in development sector, when you're talking about gender lens or gender related issues, so being it for business or environment, ecology or social aspects, so there are two sort of aspects. One is to do gender focused intervention program, and another is integrating gender lens in different aspect of interventions, right? So just would like to understand from your both of your experience how you have seen it and which kind of pathway you see more effective.
No, I love both parts of the question, and I think both of them are important. And they're important for different reasons. The first one is obvious, that you're looking at gender separately and you're doing things for them. But the gender lens is more important, I feel, because even now, if you look at workplaces or any sort of ecosystem, you will see that the reality is that it is dominated by men. And to make it more women friendly, wherever we are, it is important that we have a gender lens to it. So then we will be able to see that what is missing and what is working, and based on that we will be able to reduce or amplify the systems that exist in that working environment. And that gender lens, we don't only need to apply to just workplaces. I think we have to apply across if we want to see that kind of growth that we are talking about. After all, women are 51% in this country, but the representation at every level now, as broad as political, where are we? So, that gender lens has to be applied, and it has to be applied right from policy, corporate levels, even ESGs, and like I said earlier, that social and cultural. So it's important, and I'm compelled to say this, that men will play a bigger role when it comes to applying the gender lens to any workspace or a space otherwise.
And after this, I have a question for you.
No, I agree completely. I think both things are really, really important. And I think what really is necessary is that in our heads, we stop feeling the need to constantly promote the whole idea of gender biased workspaces. We must start believing in equality. As long as we keep telling ourselves there's a problem and we need to work with the problem, we're always going to be fighting an uphill task. The minute we acknowledge that all work is gender neutral, all knowledge should be gender neutral, all opportunity should be equal, then we have a place to stand in. Yes, we acknowledge that there is a problem and we deal with it, but the basic foundation is we are equal. We need to be able to say that.
So on the one hand, we have focus on gender lens, reinforcing what you said. Here we have gender neutral. And I know there's a question at the back, so please hold on to it. Coming back to you, sir. What is it? I mean, you also engage in climate. Do you encounter the gender aspect of it? How important is it? What are the problems? And what is your perspective on it?
So I personally feel that we have gone beyond that level where we're talking about gender-focused program. And we have to now get into a stage where we have to see each and every aspect of our life and business and what we do. We integrate gender lens. And lot of time, lot of resistance I am seeing coming for women from women. That is also happened lot of case. There are examples maybe I can give later. So I personally feel I think we have to raise our bar quite high, and we have to see now how we can more and more integrate gender lens in each and every aspect in whatever we are doing.
Okay, I will pass that. One question at the back.
I am advocate practicing in here in Delhi, in Supreme Court. मैडम ये जेंडर इक्वलिटी पावर का इक्वलिटी इट डिपेंड्स अपॉन द इंडिविजुअल्स. ये बार बार इक्वलिटी की बात ही नहीं होनी चाहिए. एवरी इंडिविजुअल मे बी सुपीरियर टू अदर और मे बी पावरफुल. इफ यू कंसीडर द टू एग्जाम्पल्स, वन इज दैट इज द लता मंगेशकर सिंगर. जब वो 70 साल की भी थी तो हर वॉइस वाज लाइक 17 years गर्ल्स. एंड इफ वी सी द अमिताभ बच्चन, he is at this age acts like a 25-year young hero. So we cannot say compare with the two कि ये lady superior है या gent superior है. So we should always talk that every individual have got own power, whether she is lady or she is gents. आज हमारी जो निर्मला सीतारमन है वो किसी और फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर मनमोहन सिंह जी भी थे उनसे कम नहीं है. So I do not say, or you people are sitting here, you are not better than any other orator as gents. So it depends on the individual, their grooming, their own attitude, how they groom, or how they got the opportunity, or how they, even if you talk about the Phulan Devi, there are a lot of decades. Like Phulan Devi itself developed her own power. See, I am not promoting the decades, but I am showing the leadership. It depends upon the individual, so we talk on the individual's growth, their grooming, and how can we empower them.
Yes,
that
sir.
is the important.
If I may, आप बिल्कुल सही कह रहे हैं. ये बात इक्वालिटी की नहीं है. इक्वालिटी तो हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल प्रोविजन है, हमारा हक है, बिल्कुल. बट यहाँ बात हो रही है अपॉर्चुनिटी की, where women actually need a push, an opportunity, an environment जहाँ पे वो पहले आके इंगेज कर पाएं. इक्वल तो है ही है. इक्वल तो हमें सब, I mean, our birth has given us that position, right? So I think the conversation here, sir, is not so much about equality. The conversation is about vertical mobility. हम कैसे provide कर सकते हैं उनको जो थोड़े से पीछे हैं. Am I right? Equity is what we're talking about. ठीक है. Any other questions in the house? Oh, yes. And with that, should we call it a last question?
Hi, ma'am. I very specifically wanted to check with Renu, ma'am. I think I come from a corporate background. I've seen the times have changed. मतलब इक्वालिटी या अपॉर्चुनिटी या सपोर्ट हमें हर तरफ से मिल ही रहा है. पीपल आर कमिंग बैक टू वर्क इवन आफ्टर टेकिंग ब्रेक्स. बट आई थिंक ये सिनेरियो काफ़ी डिफरेंट हो जाता है व्हेन वी गो टू डिफरेंट पार्ट्स ऑफ रूरल इंडिया. तो आपने क्योंकि इतना काम किया है, फॉर फ्रॉम योर एक्सपीरियंस व्हाट वर दोज 2-3 टॉप motivations जिसने ड्राइव किया women to come out of their houses, to come out of their responsibilities, और वो जो एक मन में गिल्ट होता है that I'm leaving some of the household works या मेरा जो रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी यहाँ है उसको छोड़ के मैं अपना टाइम कहीं और लगा रही हूँ, वो आपने कैसे फाइंड आउट किया और वो आपने कैसे फाइट किया? द 3-4 मेन पॉइंटर्स.
तो आप रूरल की बात कर रही हैं ना स्पेसिफिकली?
जी जी.
तो बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग बात है क्योंकि चारों और मैं इस पैनल के पहले बात कर रहे थे एंड वी वर टॉकिंग अबाउट द एनवायरनमेंट. I was saying circumstances and Charu was saying environment. तो रूरल में अगर हम देखेंगे तो एक बहुत बड़ी ज़रूरत जो दिखाई देती है वो है इनकम की, लाइवलीहुड की। वो एक सबसे बड़ा मुद्दा है जो कि विमेन को पुश करता है दैट दे वांट टू डू समथिंग, दे वांट टू गेट दैट मनी फॉर समथिंग वेरी स्पेसिफिक. It could be their children's education, they need to build their house, they need to do something, there's somebody sick in the house. Up until then, that barrier is there कि हमारे घर की लड़कियां, हमारे घर की बहुएं काम नहीं करती हैं, but this livelihood generation for a specific reason most of the times becomes their number one motivating factor to step out of the house and work and consistently work. एक और बात हमने करी सुबह एजेंसी की कि once you start working and once you start finding that money to fulfill your daily needs, and so then you start getting a voice in the house. अभी तक आपके पास आप काम कर रहे हो लेकिन आपके पास अभी भी ओपिनियन देने की कोई जगह नहीं होती है. द मोमेंट यू हैव मनी इन योर पॉकेट यू स्टार्ट फाइंडिंग द वॉइस एंड दैट गिव्स यू द कॉन्फिडेंस. द थर्ड स्टेज इज व्हेन यू स्टार्ट एम्प्लॉइंग पीपल, then that makes you an influencer. And I was quoting Suman's example. She's working in 56 villages and she has 56 women working with her. So that, तो पहला तो mostly वही होता है. Young girls के साथ में आजकल they have lot of access to technology. उनके dreams, उनके desires, उनके aspirations urban से क्यों different होंगे? They also want to be independent. So the first category is probably slightly older and need based, but the second category तो हमारे बच्चों की तरह ही है ना, जो यहाँ शहरों में क्यों फ़र्क होंगे? They are watching the same Instagram, they're watching same consuming the same content, they have same dreams and aspirations, but as sir
They say all of them are also on ChatGPT, as are urban.
Exactly, they are all doing that, and as sir was saying, so it's not a matter of equality, पर उनका gap तो urban से भी ज़्यादा है. One, they are women, and second, it's the urban and rural divide. So, you know, that is another thing. But kyun? So they have the same aspirations, and so that is their motivating factor. उनको और कोई motivation नहीं चाहिए. So I've broadly seen these two categories, and one interesting person, or actually so far I've met only one person who's doing it to fill time. कि अब मेरे बच्चे बड़े हो गए हैं, ये हो गया है, मैं, and she thinks about climate, so she's making sustainable bags and all of that with recycled plastic and clothes. So she said कि अब मेरे पास टाइम है तो मैं क्यों नहीं करूँ. Again, it is about access to technology and what content you are consuming. The world is becoming wider in a certain way and it is shrinking in the other way. So that ways we have closed the gaps, right?
One small one. Can I add?
Sure, please.
Recently, in the last few years, in Haryana, UP, and other rural area, most of the schools are being closed, government schools. They say there are no students, and most of the schools are being merged. And particularly girls students are being deprived of education. So why not to draw the attention of the government? Private education is not feasible for rural area people. So the way they are closing the school, it's going to harm a lot to girl students, and in future it can impact a lot. So if it is done something.
सर इसमें मैं थोड़ा अपना ये एक्सपीरियंस आगे रखना चाहूँगी, नॉट जस्ट इन सो वेदर इट्स सेवरल स्टेट्स, बिकॉज स्मॉलर स्कूल्स आर नॉट वेरी एफिशिएंट. क्योंकि अगर 100 बच्चे होंगे तो वहाँ पर आप कितने टीचर्स एम्प्लॉय कर पाएंगे? तो सब्जेक्ट रिलेटेड टीचर्स का होना छोटे स्कूलों में थोड़ा इनएफिशिएंट हो जाता है. तो रैशनलाइजेशन और स्कूलों को मर्ज करना is more for so that ज़्यादा टीचर्स स्कूलों में उपस्थित हो सकें. So actually there are larger reasons, but I agree with you. Schools होने चाहिए, and I think सरकार कर भी रही है. Rationalization के पीछे efficiency शायद जहाँ तक हमें पता चला है, that could be the lens for doing that. You wanted to respond to ma'am's comment? No. Any other, or shall we bring this session? There is one more. Okay, please.
Yeah, hello, I am Abhineha from Vedic region. So my observations are this, based on the discussion between Latika ma'am and Renu ma'am both. One is the ecologist, one is providing a platform to empower rural women. So there is one government policy of biodiversity register. So this biodiversity register, जब से ये policy बनी है, none of the register is being fulfilled completely. What I feel is the rural women, क्योंकि उनके पास वो access है, वो इनका traditional knowledge है to understand these herbs and these vegetation which grow in wild and all. So why not giving them an opportunity to come forward and register these species for the biodiversity, for the government, which urban people cannot do successfully because they have no idea how to identify those vegetation, how to identify those herbs and spices, those grows in the wild. So with, I think, both of your combined efforts and Renu ma'am providing the platform, we can definitely provide something, an opportunity for those women to come up with these government policies.
Thank you. That's a really interesting comment. Absolutely taking it into account. Thank you.
An idea, it's a great idea. We haven't gone in so deep. So Latika definitely is deeper than us in this regard. But yeah, point taken, and it will be stored somewhere. When we get there, we'll use it.
Thank you, Latika, thank you, Renu, for this conversation, and thank you to everybody in the house for your participation and making this, and with your suggestions, like you just said, and the other suggestions. I think a note will be taken, and I hope it fits in your 1 or 2 year plan. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Charu, Dr. Latika, Renu, for this very charged conversation and climate dialogue. A few takeaways that I had, at least personally for myself, is we spoke about the empathy, the healing power of women, and the fluidity and the flexibility that is required, but also the balance between having gender lens be applied across thematic areas, which is so fundamental to any step that we are taking towards gender equity. And thank you for bringing those conversations alive. We are honored to have you over here. And before you let you off the stage, I would like to call upon Ms. Swati Shah Gupta, the Head of ESG and Sustainability at Fireside Ventures, to felicitate our esteemed panelists. Please. Can I have the gifts over here, please? Ms. Charu Malhotra, please. Dr. Latika Nath. And our very own Miss Renu Shah. We won't leave you like that. During the course of this dialogue, and I almost forgot the very wonderful photo op. Absolutely not. Swati, we would like to also for you to join in, please. One with you as well.